Spaceships. As soon as people hear the word flying saucer, most faces light up with a smile or sarcasm. And that's understandable because the concept of flying saucers is pretty bizarre. Flying, circular plates or discs, often depicted as ships from which aliens with big eyes and gray skin emerge, abduct humans, and conduct experiments on them. You have to admit, these stories are full of thrill, but completely lack solid evidence. In fact, to tell the truth, the term flying saucer was not coined by a scientist, it was first used by a farmer. This farmer gave an interview to a newspaper. On the 25th of January, 1878, an American newspaper called the Denison Daily News published an interview with a local farmer. He claimed to have seen a massive dark object flying rapidly across the sky. According to him, the object resembled a saucer like a plate, and that very description gave birth to the iconic term flying saucer. The term quickly caught on and spread like wildfire. One big reason? The farmer's story stirred up public imagination instantly. Panic spread, and soon wild rumors started to swirl. Some even claimed Thomas Edison had invented a world-ending weapon. These rumors gained traction fast, and just like that, the phrase flying saucer wasn't just American, it was global. And as with all rumors, bizarre and baseless stories began to pile on. It's human nature. We love turning mystery into myth. People started insisting that terrifying creatures had emerged from these saucers to attack them, and from there, things only got weirder. As we all know, human imagination knows no limits. Because of these constant fake reports, in 1953, CIA's chief intelligence officer, Robertson, sent a letter to the U.S. government. His warning was clear. If false UFO sightings continue, it'll become impossible to detect real enemy aircraft. The concern was valid, and his advice led to a major decision. The U.S. would turn flying saucers into a joke. So, the government began airing television programs that mocked flying saucers. Shows like UFO, A Friend, A Foe, or A Fantasy painted them as pure fiction. But one unexpected outcome followed. The term UFO gained mass recognition. And even today, we call any unidentified flying object a UFO. That is, anything in the sky with strange features, unusual aerodynamics, or unknown technology, anything humans can't identify, falls under the category of UFO. But humans being humans didn't stop there. Over time, new ideas emerged, with new names and, of course, more rumors. One such term was coined with sincerity but later got drowned in nonsense: alien aircraft. It's worth noting, in English, alien simply means something unfamiliar or foreign from another country, or simply unknown. But sadly, the term alien aircraft shifted meaning, becoming synonymous with spaceships from outer space. That's when the propaganda and mockery exploded. Suddenly, aliens were strange, big-eyed beings with massive heads flying around in saucers ridiculous enough to make anyone chuckle. But here's the twist. Even after nearly 90 years of jokes, 14 advanced nations, including the US, Canada, France, and the UK, are still actively researching UFOs. In fact, the US alone has launched over a dozen projects to study the UFO phenomenon. Some are so well known you've probably heard of them: Project Grudge, Project Sign, Project Blue Book, and the large-scale Project Twinkle, the latter being a joint effort between the U.S. Air Force and the military. So here's the real question. Why are world powers pouring time, effort, and money into something they publicly mock? And why have none of them ever released their full reports? Think about it. Anything flying in the sky that doesn't match any known technology or design is, by definition, a UFO. And the history of UFOs doesn't just go back 200 years, it stretches back 3,500 years. Let's dive into a few ancient sightings. For instance, 3,440 years ago in Egypt, a document known as the Thule Papyrus described glowing beings battling in the sky, witnessed by the ancient Egyptians themselves. Then, 2,100 years ago, Roman historian Livy wrote several accounts in his books about mysterious ships appearing in the sky. calling them navium specium decailo or ships pouring out of the sky. It speaks of strange, radiant mountains appearing in the sky. Then, just 74 years before Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, something bizarre happened during a fierce battle between the Roman army and another force. Plutarch recorded this in his writings. As the clash raged on, a glowing star suddenly descended from the heavens. It hovered right above both armies. Its shape resembled a jar, and it gleamed like molten silver, bright and mesmerizing. The fighting stopped. Soldiers on both sides stood still, gazing at the mysterious sight. Fast forward 194 years after Jesus, peace be upon him, and Roman historian Cassius Dio documented another strange occurrence. One morning, silver-like fragments began falling from the sky. People were thrilled. They were so ecstatic that Roman Emperor Augustus had coins minted from those fragments. But just 4 days later, all the coins mysteriously disappeared. Then, in 600 AD, a man told Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about witnessing a strange object descending from the sky, and it wasn't a bird. Another companion of the Prophet, Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, was present and noticed that the man wanted to know more. The man said he had felt a strong urge to approach and speak to the object, but he changed his mind and walked away. The Prophet, peace be upon him, responded, "You did well to step away." Then, in 815 AD, something eerie unfolded in France. A book called the Grandine et Tonitri, the Book of Thunderclouds and Hail, found in the Church of Lyons Library, recounts how glowing objects were seen descending from the clouds above the mountains of a village named Magonia. The villagers panicked and threw stones to drive them away. In 1561, the skies above Nuremberg, Germany, became a battlefield as glowing objects clashed in the air. After the fight, a large, black, triangular object soared from east to west. I've shared the full details with you before, and in 1566, Basel, Switzerland witnessed red and shiny orbs battling near the sun, as seen by hundreds. I've already shared that eerie tale with you as well. Then in 1668, the Lavocha chronicles a Hungarian book described a silver-colored, lizard-shaped object flying in the sky one evening. Jump to 1942, during World War II, when something incredible happened over Los Angeles. Thousands of anti-aircraft shells were fired at a glowing object flying overhead, but none struck it. To this day, Los Angeles holds an annual memorial reenacting the mysterious event. Then, in 1946, still during World War II, the Swedish Air Force reported over 2,000 sightings of objects flying through Scandinavian skies. They insisted these weren't their aircraft, nor the enemy's. They were unlike anything seen before. In 1952, in Oloron-Sainte-Marie, France, many people saw a long, luminous object in the sky, accompanied by several small, shiny ones. From these smaller objects, spider web-like material rained down, landing on trees, branches, and rooftops, only to vanish shortly afterward. Then, in 1954, during a packed football match in Italy, a thin, shiny object flew above the stadium. When it reached the crowd, it stopped and nearly 10,000 people witnessed it. In 1967, a Canadian pilot had an unusual encounter at 7 p.m. A bright object was flying near the left wing of his aircraft. Eventually, it drifted away. But an hour later, people began calling radio stations, claiming they saw a glowing object over their homes. That same night, at least 11 witnesses reported seeing the object crash into the ocean. Within 15 minutes, rescue teams were on the scene, launching an immediate operation. But no survivors, wreckage, or even debris were ever found. Local fishermen and coast guards joined the search. Still, nothing. By morning, it was confirmed. No Canadian aircraft had gone missing. Whatever it wasn't a regular plane. The event was then officially labeled a UFO incident. Still, the search didn't stop. The Canadian Navy took over. For 3 straight days, they scoured the ocean floor. Despite the intense search, no trace was found. The Canadian Navy later confirmed that the official report still exists today in the Department of National Defense and the National Library of Canada. Then in 1980, a brilliant object suddenly appeared before a Peruvian fighter jet. The pilot fired 64 rounds at it, but the object zipped away unharmed. In 1982, another bizarre event occurred at a biologist's home in France. She had a wide variety of plants in her garden. Around 12:30 a.m., she saw a strange glowing object flying low as if it were inspecting the plants in midair. If you're someone interested in plants, you'll find this absolutely fascinating. The grass beneath that object stood perfectly upright, untouched, yet alert. That shiny object hovered over the woman's plants for quite some time, and by the next day, something unbelievable had happened. All the plants it hovered over were completely dehydrated. Every drop of moisture was gone. Then came the legendary incident in 1994, when 62 schoolchildren in Zimbabwe witnessed a shiny object flying and hovering near their schoolyard. You may not know this, but after the 1947 events, the American Air Force and FBI launched a formal joint investigation. Their mission? To find out if UFOs actually existed. At first, investigators thought maybe it was just celestial phenomena, some strange-shaped clouds or rare atmospheric tricks. But 3 weeks later, the final report came out, and it contained one spine-tingling sentence. "We are not sure, but something is really flying around." I've taken you through stories that span more than 3,500 years. These aren't folklore or fantasy. These are documented, recorded, reported, with written evidence. Thousands, perhaps even millions of people have seen them, generation after generation. If you've been listening closely, you'll have noticed a pattern. Witnesses consistently describe the weight, shape, and size of these objects. But more than that, they describe behavior. The behavior of something curious. Sometimes it observes Roman soldiers locked in battle. Other times, it hovers quietly over a biologist's garden. It flies alongside military planes in Canada. It watches thousands of people in Italian stadiums from above. Doesn't that feel intentional? Like something or someone is trying to understand our world? One detail appears again and again in these sightings: the shiny appearance of the object. And that might be the most important clue of all: a flying, shiny object. Remember when I told you that life on Earth is carbon-based? Carbon is the fourth most abundant element in the universe. So it's logical to assume that life beyond Earth might also be carbon-based. But I also told you that there's one rival to carbon: silicon. It's the only other element whose atoms can bond in all directions, just like carbon atoms. If life could form around anything else, it would be silicon. And have you ever seen pure silicon? It shines like silver, like the very same shiny objects we've seen in the skies. So, what if these aren't alien spaceships at all? What if they're living, breathing beings? Silicon-based life forms shining silver because of what they're made from. Being silicon-based, they would be light, capable of flight, and able to endure extreme cold. They could travel where humans could never survive high altitudes or freezing temperatures. Creatures crossing over from their world to ours, not to invade, but to observe, to explore. Watching Roman armies clash, silently floating above packed stadiums. Maybe their appearance is lizard-like, like the one seen flying over a French city. Maybe, just maybe, they hovered above a French biologist's plants not out of randomness, but out of curiosity. Maybe they appear as glowing spheres spotted by people in Germany and Switzerland, when the sun and earth align perfectly during a solar eclipse. A rare moment, a portal opens between two worlds. And in that fleeting instant, witnesses saw silicon-based life forms battling each other across the sky. These shimmering, flying objects, maybe they're not spacecraft at all, but actual living beings. Silicon-based life beings that shine like silver. Creatures that enter our world when the gateway between realms briefly unlocks. And just maybe, this has been happening for thousands of years. Because during my research, I uncovered reports of glowing airborne objects spanning 3,500 years from ancient Egypt through medieval Europe, and even hidden in the backgrounds of Renaissance paintings. Imagine it a silicon-based organism, light, airborne, and resistant to extreme heat or cold. effortlessly flying through the freezing upper layers of the sky. Not alien ships, but beings in their own right. A form of life we've never fully recognized, dwelling in what I call the second hall of existence. Silicon-based life. Luminous, living entities in the air. Stretching across centuries from the tombs of ancient Egypt to the cathedrals of medieval Europe. Even in masterpieces of the 16th century, you'll find glowing, flying objects subtly depicted. A silicon-based life form. Its unique composition makes it light enough to fly and nearly immune to temperature extremes, allowing it to glide freely through even the iciest skies. These aren't alien machines. They're living, breathing beings. Life forms from a second realm of existence, one we've barely begun to understand. Silicon-based life gliding through our skies like radiant phantoms of another world.